marvellous Irish victory, their first against the All Blacks in New Zealand, their fourth overall, and fully deserved.
England have stormed the Wallabies fortress and taken the win. We're going to Sydney for the decider.
And Wales have their first victory ever in South Africa.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.
Tēnā koutou katoa, welcome into the breakdown. What a weekend. A weekend that sent, well, almost every series to a decider, didn't it? 24 hours after we've had time to digest that historic moment from Ireland. 117 years in the making. They come to New Zealand and get their first ever victory. And, well, this panel, they can't wait to rip into this. Jeff Wilson is almost ready.
Look at him.
We've got Tokoro's finest and the sole Irishman that's very happy, Isaac Boss.
I've got sore cheeks from still smiling.
Great to have you on the programme, and of course a man that needs no introduction, Stephen Bates as well. After the last 24 hours, we'll start off with you. How are you feeling?
Oh, geez, a bit tired actually. I was down there in Dunedin and getting out. I did get to bed nice and early, let them celebrate, but that was magnificent. Yeah, pretty good. So great occasion, great game, and yeah, like I said, you haven't stopped smiling.
Clearly, it wasn't a great game. It clearly wasn't a great game because, bottom line, one team had to play with 14 men, then 13 men. Credit where credit is due, and you have to do it. And we knew the dangers, Batesy, of this Ireland team coming on our shores, and now we've got one of the great test weeks to look forward to. Sky Stadium in Wellington, we've got a decider, not just a decider here. We've got a decider in South Africa, we've got a decider in Australia, and we've got a decider in South America. So bottom line, if you love rugby, next weekend is something to behold and really celebrate, Batesy.
And if you're a neutral, isn't it what you want? You watch any sport you watch, and we're watching rugby at the moment. If you want a contest, and what you do over the 4 series there, you got a contest, you got a decider in every single one. So you know, if you want to promote the game of rugby, it's better to promote a series that is 1-1 rather than 2-0. So we've got 4 great games coming up next weekend and everything to play for.
But what do Ireland do after the game? Look, how did they approach this? Because bottom line, when you create history, and that's what they've done. But I got the sense when Jonathan Sexton did his interview after the game, the job's not done. That was the first job, right? But the real history is winning the series. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, I totally see that. They would have celebrated because they deserve to celebrate. They deserve to have their pint.
Well, they do it well.
And a couple of whiskies, maybe. Yeah. Because that was brilliant. And then if they'd won the first match and lost this one, momentum's changed. Now they've got momentum. All the pressure's on the All Blacks going into Wellington. It's just changed the whole perspective of it. And basically, there's no neutrals here. Yeah. You know that.
I'll just say, in general, I'll just say one thing I picked up from that Johnny Sexton interview. He was very deliberate in saying, when it was 15 on 15, we were winning. Yep. You know what I mean? So he didn't miss his mark. He was direct in what he was saying. So don't forget that. When it was 15 on 15, we were winning. And that's what I picked up from that interview.
When we were 15 on 15 the week before, though, we only needed 15 minutes to take the game away from them. So be very, very careful what you ask for. And bottom line, in the first 40 minutes where they had the advantage, they should have put the game away. And they didn't. To let the All Blacks get themselves back into the game just before half-time could have come back and hurt them. They proved they're a quality side. And they did it in the second half. In the first 10 minutes, you felt as though they took the game away from the All Blacks. But they needed to do that because the All Blacks got a lift. They showed some character, but they put themselves in a difficult position. And Ireland did what England couldn't do to Australia. They came back and proved they're an outstanding team.
And with that, I actually think their tactics changed a little bit in the second half, which wasn't for the benefit. They went to the kicking game a little bit more that they hadn't used. I thought they played a little bit safe when they played a lot more fast, attacking pace rugby up until that. So I think, you know, that was maybe just a bit of changed focus. But if you go back to Test 1, those 15 minutes was 5 mistakes from the Irish team that they don't make any other game of the year. And they got them all out of the way there. And, you know, they were a lot more clinical in the weekends. They did what they needed to do. And the All Blacks, 2 tries, last minute of the first half, last minute of the second half. So you can't tell me that any other time in that game that the All Blacks were actually in it.
We're absolutely going to celebrate Ireland, and deservedly so today. But as for the All Blacks, it's funny that in 1 week the pendulum completely shifts. The pressure is on them, Jeff. That was the biggest home defeat in 29 years. Are you concerned? Are you worried? As JK keeps saying, 15 months out from the Rugby World Cup.
You have to be concerned, but the context of the Test match changed the moment Angus Ta'avao was red carded. So when you start thinking about what the All Blacks were having to face through the course and the remainder of that series, and that's 80 minutes, it was going to be difficult for them to get over the top of a team that is clearly world-class. That's what this side are. Disciplined on defence, incredibly accurate, and when you're a man down, it takes its toll, and they just created more and more pressure, Batesy. They did what they're very, very good at. Look, the red card, we'll talk about this in a moment, and the impact on the game. But we've seen this happen before. And it happened in a Lions series when we lost Sonny Bill Williams in the second Test match. So you can't say it was a fair fight because they didn't play 15 on 15. But, to your point, both Test matches, Ireland have shown that they are very, very good. I'll keep going back. They show quality and are good enough to score points against the All Blacks, and that puts you under pressure. I
100% agree with you. The game changed when Ta'avao got sent off. I 100% agree with that. But in saying that, again, and we've got to give credit to the Irish, because at half-time, I was sitting at home with my two sons, and all three of us, All Blacks are going to come back and win this. Just because they had all the momentum. The Irish couldn't put them away. They couldn't put them away. But they didn't. And at 15 on 14, it doesn't matter. You still got to win. And Aussie showed last week you can beat a team with 14 men. So you've got to give credit for how good they were.
So which one of those boys is going to be wearing a green shirt next week?
Well, I tell you what, the young fella got a bit bored. I don't think it'll be him because the young fella got a bit bored and fell asleep in the second half. So I don't think it's him.
The price of potatoes are going up now, you know that, inflation. So those chips at McDonald's are going to cost a lot more, mate.
On the red card, Ardie Savea obviously wasn't able to play for 40 minutes of that match. What sort of an impact did that have? And can anyone explain what was actually going on at that time? There seemed to be so much confusion. Look,
I think everyone was confused. The fact, and I think it got really confusing the moment the All Blacks ran three players back onto the field. And reality is that what should have happened here is that Dalton Papali'i should have been the player who remained off because he was replaced by Angus Ta'avao, who got the red card. That's the information I've been given. And Ardie Savea should have been able to remain on the field. Now, the one thing he would have brought is experience and leadership. And he is, to be fair, one of the form All Blacks over the last 18 months. And they may have needed that deep into the game. But I think there are other areas the All Blacks will be concerned. The scrum didn't deliver like it delivered the week before. It got hurt. Remembering, though, we didn't have a reserve tight head prop to go to. He was off the field. So Ofa Tuangafasi had to do a big shift after his 10 minutes in the bin. The other thing is we just didn't cherish possession. We made far too many errors, and our ability to hold on and look after the high kicks hurt us. Everyone that went up, Ireland either got it back or the All Blacks made an error. You make those mistakes against a good side, they'll hurt you.
Isaac, you're a neutral voice here. Do you look at individual players or do you look at the coaching?
He's not neutral.
He's not neutral.
Jeff's thumbs up. Irish is the... sorry, Bossy's the other way. I'm the neutral here, Kirst.
Do we have the right players and the right coaches in place?
Oh, look, it's not a... I don't think it's a coaching thing or a playing thing. It's purely about that 80 minutes. And this happens in high intensity international rugby. It can go either way, and you've got to be able to adapt. And I don't think they adapt well. And I go back again, like you said, the mistakes, the pressure was all on them. And, you know, the score probably actually flatters the All Blacks. Even that Bodie try, you know?
Yeah, I agree entirely.
Is that a planned move?
That's not a planned move. It's not a planned move.
I just thought that when that happened, I thought, this is going to go against us again, and it's not going to be the day for the green. But, look, I think they were put under the pressure. All that, they actually created the opportunities to put themselves in positions where they could get like that, you know. And going back to those cards, doesn't really matter. You had 15 players on the field. That's an officials. They let 3 people go back on for 15. It should never have been that. I don't want to sound like a cheerleader to the Irish here, but what I did really enjoy about the Irish is in Test 1, the All Black threw a lot of C balls to their third runner and C hooks and something like that. That caught the Irish out. They identified it and they were nullified that, and then they got up and they turned that pill over because that guy doesn't have an outside cleaner. What the teams in the Northern Hemisphere do have over us is they are constantly thrown at them every week through their club rugby, through their Six Nations, teams that play different structures. The All Blacks threw a different structure at them in Test 1. It caught them out and they adjusted very, very quickly. And their defensive effort was 1,000,000 times better. And you're 100% right. The 2 tries the All Blacks did score, it was hard work, incredibly difficult. They just don't miss defensively either. And we didn't stress them defensively. I'm still a little bit disappointed. At no point in either Test match have we shown an inkling to go through the middle collectively.
if you go to the edges and you try and play with width, the Irish defence is just too accurate, is too well disciplined, and they don't miss. Look, the first line break that led to the try was off a missed tackle. The All Blacks missed some critical tackles. Discipline let the All Blacks down. We presented Ireland with plenty of opportunities, and they're able to take those. The interesting part now is the All Blacks will have some critical players available for the next weekend. David Havili will be back on deck. Sam Whitelock, it looks as though he's going to be back on deck. That makes up a difference in terms of what we'll have in our forward pack, but they'll need some answers, particularly in the front row for the scrum. And I look at the three things that put us under pressure. The scrum hurt us. Our ability to negate the high ball and our error rate from pressure. That's what South Africa's done to us in the past. It's what England's done to us in the past. Those are the areas that the All Blacks have continued to struggle with. We didn't struggle with them in Auckland, but Ireland fronted up once again. And that's a challenge.
Well, what's it like in the All Blacks environment after a result like that, Jeff?
Oh, it's incredibly challenging, incredibly challenging. I'm looking forward to hearing inside the All Blacks when you are faced with the adversity they're going to face this week.
Well, we're very lucky now to head inside the All Blacks camp. They've made their way from Dunedin to Wellington, and our All Blacks lock Brodie Retallick joins us now live. Brodie, how's everyone feeling? Can you talk to us about the comfort levels in the team and the squad at the moment after a result like that yesterday?
Yeah, it's obviously, coming just one and then putting a performance, I suppose, like we did last night. It's probably disappointing and hurts a little bit. There's a bit of frustration around post-game, some sore bodies. But I guess, it's 1-1. There's the excitement of looking forward to this week and tidying up a few things from the weekend and put a better performance out there than we did.
So, Brodie, from your point of view, as a senior player, where is it you start the sort of analysis? Do you start with yourself? Do you start conversations with the coaching staff? And for you, is there a process you go through and after a performance like yesterday?
Yeah, obviously, everyone has like their individual review. We go and look at their own clips. We got to Wellington and had a leaders meeting, and where we sit down with Boz and the leaders of the team and kind of started the debrief there. It's sometimes good to get off your chest the frustrations and then look forward to how we're going to get it right this weekend.
Batesy here, mate. You talk about the frustrations. Where for you were probably the biggest frustrations from last night?
I think the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of each half, even though we had the cards in the first half, we went into the sheds at 10-7, but we let them in very easily early on and gave them an easy start, a bit like Eden Park. And then, when we had our opportunities to build some pressure, we just didn't hold on to the ball. We made simple mistakes knocking it on, and it's always hard to do that when you're a man down and not giving possession away. Sorry.
Yeah, Brodie, and it's Bossy here, mate. You talk about those pressure points and where you need to work on, but there's also times where you're down to 13 men right on your line and you're packing down for an uncontested scrum and you're thinking you can't really do much about it as a lock, can you? You're getting your head up thinking, where are they? What are the backs doing? I mean, you defended it well. How did that feel?
Yeah, just before one of those scrums, they told me to pack down the side and just try tackle number 8, but which is a bit different, just pushing. I think there was definitely parts there, especially when we're numbers down and some of the defence, you can't question the will and the want from the boys there. It was pretty outstanding, but at the same time, we've got to be able to do it both sides of the ball and like I touched on, cut a few of those mistakes and errors out so that we can get a chance to play our game.
Look, I've been in this situation before where you are right now, where there is a big game coming up, but it is still 6 days away, right? How do you guys time your run? Because clearly you'll be frustrated. How important now is Monday to Friday? And when do you think you really do start getting the mental side of your preparation right?
Yeah, I think we talked about like the Lions series. We were in a similar situation, had a red card in Wellington and went to game 3 at Eden Park, but it's also a great challenge for the squad. Like obviously we didn't want to lose in the weekend and we would like to sew it up, but to go into the series 1-1 with a big decider in Wellington is going to be a great learning experience for the squad and the boys that haven't been there. So that's a positive. I think, like I said, we start to talk about it tonight here in Wellington, the leaders, and once we hit the ground Monday, it's all about looking forward to Saturday and building our run, like you touched on, so that we come out of the blocks on Saturday night and not be slow like we did in the weekend.
Brody, you talk about parts of your game you got well. Early on, they put you under a bit of line-out pressure, but then an area you're an expert in, then you guys are able to regroup, come back, win some good quality ball, and then turn it around on them and pilfer some of their ball as well. That must feel good for you guys and must be a positive going into next week.
Yeah, I think those first couple were a little bit rusty and they pinched one there, but I thought, especially going into half-time, we went to our 5-man line-out and we just mauled it and we managed to win a couple of penalties and piggyback ourselves down the field was a highlight. Yeah, I think the set piece in game one was good, and we know if we could pressure their line-out and steal their ball, it's a set piece that they look to start their game off. So, again, it'll be another massive focus as our line-out D and attack moving forward to Saturday.
Well, Brodie, thank you so much for your time, for your honesty and always turning up to talk to us on The Breakdown, and we wish you all the very best for the decider this weekend.
No worries, thanks very much.
Yeah, absolutely awesome to be able to get an All Blacks perspective. But Isaac, can Ireland do it 2 weeks in a row? And will they be disadvantaged at all? Because they've got another match this week against the Maori All Blacks in 2 days' time. Yeah,
and I think that's the key part of it. They definitely can do it. And like I said, the momentum's with them now. But week one, they had players that played the Māori match and the whole bench had played. And this week we've got that Māori match again on Tuesday in Wellington, given that's only a couple of days away now. But there's going to be guys backing up from this game to Tuesday now, and then also backing up from Tuesday to next Saturday. So it's tough. They've come with 40. They wanted to put themselves under pressure. They wanted to test themselves with a bit of adversity. What better place to do it, really, isn't it?
I think if you get picked in the starting 15, expect to do a big shift on Tuesday night, because they're going to have to step up. They could use it as a continuation of the momentum. If they get another really strong performance, the belief continues to get stronger and stronger. We know the belief's now well and truly there, though, right? This team, I don't think we'll see anything different from Ireland this week, because the consistency of their performances, it's there. We know what they're going to do. I think this week, Batesy, is really about the All Blacks and what they do in terms of their preparation. Yeah, I think it is. And the All Blacks, they've had a few shots fired across the bow and they will come back. They can guarantee that. Whether it'll be good enough or not, who knows? But there will definitely be a response from the All Blacks, just like there was a response from the Irish. And I do agree with you, Bossy. I don't think the Māori match is a great thing for the Irish to have right now. They wanted adversity, but I think, look at someone like Bundy Aki. They've had a couple of injuries in the midfield. He's probably going to have to start the test match. He may have to start on Tuesday as well after playing. He played about 40-odd, 50-odd minutes on the weekend. So there's plenty of people in that category. This is a massive week for the All Blacks. Yeah. I mean, if you think of what they've faced over the last 12 months and the challenges at the back end. This is the next 12 months. Well, I think in terms of looking forward, this is a real gauge of where you're at as a group and the challenge, and Brodie's talked about that. We'll find out what this coaching group are about, what this player group are about, what the leadership is all about. They'll find out so much more about themselves in this next week. Last year was a unique situation. We understand how long they were away from home, but reality is there are no excuses this week, right? No. They're the makers of their own destiny come Saturday in Wellington. And there's even more pressure, because imagine if you lose that and all these things going against the Irish, like a midweek game, 40 players, like you said, Ringrose, Sexton, all these injuries after 5 games in 3 weeks, they lose that. What's next? Oh, that famous saying, imagine if they lost from here. You just reminded me of that. Please, please don't. You'll be smiling again on the breakdown. You know what I hope we don't have? I really pray we don't have a draw. No. Because remembering how that's what I mean. I've got the stats here. 4-3. Get an agreement. Yeah, get an agreement. Let's get an agreement that you'll play some time. 4-3 Ireland are up, OK, over the last number of years. But you go back to 2013, there's a game, we didn't want a draw. There was that draw and they did the kick again to win it. A draw was a loss to us. But imagine you take that out. Then think about the Lions series as well. Just the anti-climax of it, of 1-1 and a draw. Let's, come on, play extra time, please. Stephen. Golden point. Let's go golden point. There we go. Keep going until someone scores. Golden point. Ireland won't need it. They'll kick a goal on 80 to win. Sexto, he'll stay on. He's got to stay on for 80. Is he going to play? Yeah, that's the big question. He was being nice. He just stayed on enough till he had one. He went off, what was it, 76 minutes or 75? So, yeah. We want all the best players out there, don't we? We want Johnny Sexton to be out there. What about the All Blacks, Jeff? What changes are you making? Where will the changes be made, if any? Well, going into this series, they would have had a team they wanted to play. That was disrupted right from the very beginning through COVID. So I expect Will Jordan to get an opportunity. I expect David Havili to get an opportunity in the back line. I think they are 2 guys that they would have had in their starting lineup, and they'll go back and look at their original pack. the one with Scott Barrett on the blind side, that did the job well on the first game. And I look at that. Whether or not they make a change in the front row, whether Angus Ta'avao, I imagine he's not going to be available for this Test match. And it's where Nepo Lalala is in regards to his recovery and his neck issue at the moment. But that would be where the changes, I think, could be made.
Yeah, I tend to agree, because the game is going, and you've seen it across the southern hemisphere matches, the game is going really aerial. You know, be it line-out aerial, be it high kicks aerial, and that's an area that the Northern Hemisphere, England, Wales and Irish have beaten us. So talk about Will Jordan in that area, and that's where he probably comes into the play. Honestly, the game is going more and more about who can win the contest in the air. And those two people, Scott Barrett maybe at 6, and then Will Jordan on the wing, they are two men that don't lose the aerial battle that often.
I think the 8-9 combination is the big one here. Ardie being off from the weekend, and, you know, you've got Whakatava coming off the bench. Aaron, you know, is he playing on top of his game at the minute? I think that's a real key part in the All Blacks at the minute, and I think that's where a big pressure point is.
Interesting. Are you suggesting a change at number 8 for the All Blacks?
I'm just saying it hasn't worked so far, has it?
So you're suggesting a change at number 8 for the All Blacks?
Not necessarily 8. Maybe I'm saying 9. You know what I mean? There's a whole combination there around it. He's been they missed him in the weekend, undoubtedly. But you got to get that combination.
I do think, and all three of them are wonderful players. All the three loose forwards that we come out and arguably go number 7 in any team in the world. But I do agree that I'm not sure we have 3 number 7s out there to start a test. I'm not sure. And that's where we missed Ardie. We couldn't break down the Irish defence. We couldn't. They were too good. But Ardie, as a general rule, he finds a way to break down the defence and get us in behind. We didn't have that on the weekend.
Well, you two would know you've had a pretty good combination over the years as well.
This used to annoy me.
Vice versa, I'm sure.
I think he nicknamed me Mozzie the first time, didn't he?
I did.
Well, I'll tell you what, there was plenty more action over the weekend. There were cards galore as well. It was actually hard to keep up with all of them from all the matches over the weekend. And guess who was front and centre saying his piece? Eddie Jones.
Well, I think the game's gone out of control. I think the game's out of control. Yeah, we saw the New Zealand-Ireland test. You know, at one stage, the commentators couldn't count how many players were on the field. Seriously. And they had 3 backs packing a scrum. Like, we've gone the full hog, where everything's a yellow card, everything's a red card, and there needs to be some common sense come back into the game. Because if you're following a team, or you're supporting a team, or you're watching a game of rugby, and the numbers are changing all the time. You know, we're supposed to have a 15. If we want to play 14 aside, let's just... Like, I asked the referee today how many yellow and red cards he had in his pocket. So I picked up his pocket and had a look how many he had. He had plenty. But he didn't use so many of them today. But he used enough of them. Yeah, I think we've gone too far.
Well, sometimes he can make it hard to agree with him, but Jeff, are you agreeing with him? Have we gone too far in rugby?
Look, it's a collision sport, and this is a conversation we keep going on and on about, but I'm looking at this from in some ways, a fan's perspective. People have invested a lot of money to travel long distances to go to a game, and that contest is significantly harmed when you lose someone from that game. And particularly if you compare 2 from last weekend and this weekend, Darcy Swain does a headbutt and gets a red card. Absolutely justified. No problem at all. Angus Ta'avao he's covering on the inside, a player cuts back inside, and he has 0.54 of a second to change his body position. He doesn't have an opportunity to do what he needs to do to protect him and the player he's tackling, and there's an accidental head collision, and it has the same effect on the game. And this is a real challenge for the game right now, is the fact that there's so many collisions in the game. And I get that I could look at sour grapes because it's the All Blacks, but this could quite easily have happened to Ireland. It could happen to South Africa. It could happen to any team. And if you're thinking about, in 15 months' time, a Rugby World Cup, it being decided and severely influenced by a rugby play, Bossy, just a rugby play that happens, an incidental collision, I have an issue with that. I have a real issue with the fact that it's going to decide a game, and I think it had a massive impact on the game on the weekend.
Yeah, there's no doubt it had a big impact. And I think any time you got a back doing a switch like that and a front row forward running across, he's thinking he's going to beat me back on the outside. So he's gunning to make that right-sided tackle, and Gary Ringrose keeps going, and, you know, that's, like you said, 0.54 of a second. You can't react that quick. But the biggest thing, I think there's a bigger picture here that people forget about, and we don't like seeing the head knocks, you know. We don't want to get to a stage where it was like the NFL, you know, and this sort of stuff. So, although I think it is a little bit stupid at the minute, I think it's part of the process that if we don't stamp stuff like that down...
You can't stamp that out, though. You can't stop that head clash there.
But
you can stop head-high tackles, you can stop headbutts, but you can't stop collisions like that, Bossy.
But the number of collisions like that you can, and that's purely what I think it is. So the way it's reffed is the difficult part. So I've got no issue with collisions and all that sort of stuff and issue like that. But, like, there was a lot more of them. We've been a lot harsher on them. I think they'll probably button off that going into the World Cup because they don't want that to wreck a World Cup. And they won't let it.
Well, they didn't do it for the last World Cup.
I'll just say one thing, and I know we brought it in New Zealand here through the Super Rugby. I just think, to your point, you're ruining a contest. I believe that a 20-minute red card is a wonderful scenario. I know it's been voted and it's been kicked out, but I believe that a 20-minute red card still doesn't ruin the contest. You know, it was a wonderful contest that didn't ruin it,
but what about in the case of a headbutt, though, where it's straight out filth?
Well, the thing is, how do you... Yeah, that is straight out filth.
Straight out filth.
Who makes the decision? Oh, that was unintentional or it wasn't unintentional, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, there's grey lines in there, you know what I mean? I understand what you're saying. Angus Tarvell wasn't intentional. Darcy Swain was intentional. I understand that. But then when we get closer together, then we're blurring the lines.
So Ben O'Keefe in the final of Super Rugby Pacific got it right twice. He was smart enough to recognise what's a rugby play and what's not a rugby play, and he wasn't influenced by everyone around him. And that's part of the issue as well. The more people who get involved in this conversation, for me, the more confused it gets, and the more you have to rely so heavily on the law. And then all of a sudden, it's the strongest personality that ends up quite often affecting what happens on the field. And look, I'm not saying that Angus Tarvell was perfect in this. He ended up colliding head to head, and no one wants to see that. And I understand you want to protect the players, but by the same token, there are some collisions in the game which are uncontrollable.
Yep, and with that too, you've got, of the officials, you've got Jaco Piper, who was in the United Rugby Championship. You've got, I think it was Andrews or someone who was actually in the Sansa stuff with Australia reffing, and you've got an Englishman. So all of a sudden, 3 different interpretations, and they're coming on to give the referee advice of how they should see it. And one competition had the red card 20-minute replacement, the other one didn't. So all of a sudden... And what's going on?
You say that, Bossy, and I don't know if you saw the South African game. Poor old Alan Wynne-Jones, he got sin-binned for 10 minutes for hands in the ruck. He didn't even touch the ball. It wasn't the referee's fault. It came from upstairs. So he didn't even touch the thing. And then he got sent to the sin bin. The one thing I'll agree with Eddie Jones, we've gone too far, the Parisi one for Australia. Ridiculous.
Well, let's take a look at that moment then.
He's trying to catch the ball, you know what I mean? And he gets some...
But that's common sense. That's a rugby play.
Yeah.
He didn't knock it down deliberately, right? Yeah. He's trying to catch the ball. I mean, this is where I think we've got to give our referees more credit that they understand the game. Surely that you can... bottom line, where you're trying to catch the ball. You know, his palm is in a position... I know and understand that there'll be some people out there going, well, that's stopped to try, but is that a yellow card offence? I just can't see it.
2 years ago, that was a yellow card offence. Remember when they cracked down on it? And then they've gone away and they've brought other ones in. It's kind of like the refs themselves. They play all these rules where they've got to stamp down, and they don't know which one they're playing at the moment.
He's disappointed, Parisi. He's disappointed, not because he thinks he's going to the bin. He's disappointed because he should have caught that and scored at the other end. That's why he's disappointed.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think... there's some serious challenges and conversations that need to be had about... And I come back to the people who are going and paying to watch the game, who have travelled to Dunedin, they've travelled around the world, who are going to a World Cup in France, for example. They've invested in, and they want to see a contest. They want to see a fair contest where an incidental contact, a normal rugby play, which has resulted in an incidental contact, doesn't ruin the contest for everybody else. Whether or not they need to introduce that extra card. We've talked about it, the 20-minute card versus the full, OK, you've stepped on someone, you kick someone, you're gone. Oh, no, this is an accidental collision. 20 minutes, it doesn't kill the contest. I think it's really important going forward that discussions are had.
Yeah, I'm with Basie. I think I'm disappointed that they didn't keep that replacement rule going because if a player really does something wrong, then he's penalised, he's disciplined. The team isn't put at stake for anything, you know what I mean? Because you're also dealing with people's livelihoods. People are, you know what I mean? There's a lot riding on this, not just that one individual.
What about consistency? I mean, we talk about it so often, don't we? But if you look at the Leicester Whainganuku incident, that happened in Super Rugby not that long ago, right? For a guy in your team, Batesy.
Well, I sat here and I said I disagreed with Caleb Clark getting suspended for 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
I said that. Okay, Caleb Clark got suspended for 3 weeks, so we just need consistency. I didn't agree with Caleb, and I'm not saying Leicester should be suspended for 3 weeks, but at the end of the day, anything you want is consistency.
Not when a headbutt gets 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Not when a deliberate collision leading with your head gets 2 weeks. Are you kidding me? And then someone's had 3. I mean, that consistency you're talking about, it's just critical for the players, for the fans, for everyone. And by the same token, everyone needs to understand at the ground exactly what's going on. That was one of the confusing parts last night when that debacle was happening, like with there's players coming on left, right and centre, and we're not knowing. And the All Blacks, not through any fault of their own, it was incredibly confusing. We need to educate people at the ground and at home to exactly what everything is for.
Maybe that was a tactic. They knew they weren't allowed 15. They just tried to sneak them on there. It changed momentum of the game from there, you know what I mean?
They almost got away with it.
They almost did. And that's what maybe it's just a genius play to stop momentum, you know what I mean? After that, you know, they got down. It
was amusing seeing people. How many counting? You know,
Cody Taylor's way over, ready to throw the ball, and he's hiding off the pitch, but he's actually in play. So I actually think it's just
J1. No, you've got 1, 2, 3. You got too many.
I'll pretend I'll go for goal, but I'll pretend to go for goal and I'll kick to the winger.
Good to know that we can all count, eh? It's a very Chiefs-heavy show tonight, of course, these two, but we also get a couple of great Chiefs mates together in the Deep South. Damien Mckenzie and Antoinette Brown right after the break.
Hey team, I'm down here in the Deep South. It's bloody cold. I'm here to watch my good mate Damien Mckenzie. He's just got back from Japan and he's playing for his family club Woodlands for the first time. Looking forward to watching him play. Let's see how he goes. Yeah, obviously we've got the Sim Meister back from Japan. He's back down in the Deep South playing club footy. A club that means a lot to his family. Obviously, a lot of people turned out today. They reckon about 2,000. They reckon it was for Marty McKenzie. Is there any truth to that?
There's every truth to that.
Yeah.
No, it was a great crowd. Rugby down this part of the country is massive, so to be able to get a crowd like that out here tonight and a lot of kids along to the game was pretty good. So yeah, Swanee really deserved, after a great performance, he played really well.
I guess all the punters at home want to know how it feels to be back in New Zealand and what's the journey ahead for you, like what's the future hold?
Yeah. No, it's great to be back, Brown. I've been back for about a month, had a bit of a time off, just got away from footy, which was good, and yeah, just sort of started to get back into training now, and obviously to ease back and through club footy has been good. There's a little bit of rust out there tonight still, and lungs were a little bit sore at times, but from here, I just jump into Waikato. I believe we've got a new coach coming on board too, yourself, so that'll be interesting. But no, it's just nice to be back home, and like I said, to be able to come down here and play for a club that's special to my family. I had Granddad up in the car, so it was great to see him here, and being able to watch 3 of his grandkids play on the same team was pretty cool. So yeah, it's nice to be home.
And I can't wait to coach you.
Yes,
you probably won't get the 10 jersey, probably the 23 jersey, that's all right.
He's my way back into
it's Antoinette Brown from the Deep South. Where are we?
Business Leisure Jamie.
That's where we're from. Thank you very much.
Pretty sands, guys.
Oh, his first story for us, Antoinette Brown. Great work. He stayed warm, but also...
Already Park, I've played there. I've played a lot of games there. Great sand-based field. Outstanding. I hear he wasn't even the best Mckenzie on show, though.
Oh, really?
Marty was on fire. Marty was on fire.
Also for the 2 club teams, though, Woodlands and for Star as well, to have these players out there and mixing with him.
Yeah, it's great. Fantastic. It's great to have him back. I'm interested to see at what stage he gets back on the national radar. He has to go back and play in the NPC.
Yeah.
He'll be doing that with Waikato. Now it's a matter of when the All Blacks need him. Not available for the Rugby Championship, or unless...
I mean, we've seen COVID cases happen, of course. Paddy was brought in, Paddy Tui Polotu, that is, and given an exemption. Do the All Blacks need him?
No, I don't think they do at the moment. I think they've got the talent there. It's just they didn't produce.
I'll say this. I'd feel really sorry for Stephen Petafeta if he doesn't get the opportunity to show what he's capable of, because he's played so well this year for the Blues. And he's sitting behind clearly in Beauden Barrett and Richie Mo'unga. There's been a lot of guys who have been in the All Blacks before and not got an opportunity. I'd like to think through the Rugby Championship he's still there and we get to see what he can do at the next level.
So this weekend must win against Ireland, and you have to choose between Mckenzie or Perifeta.
Well, we don't have to, because we've got Richie Mo'unga and Beauden Barrett. If we had to, it's Stephen Perifeta. The runs are on the board. I think he's proven himself. He's been in the environment. Look, I think that's the reality of you've got to trust these players that you've brought in and selected. The interesting one for me is where Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is right now. You know, and if they've got any thoughts of involving him in such a big test match, I'll be surprised.
And I think that's so what they go, they're in the cauldron this weekend, the All Blacks, aren't they? They really are. Wow. So that is good for their character. That is good for their building. Yep. But what they do miss out on is people like Roger, potentially, and also Stevie, they don't get to play. And, you know, so there is a bob each way. They're in the cauldron, they want to be in the cauldron, but there's a little development they miss out on.
Big time.
When do these players get to play, though? Because you go to South Africa next.
Yeah, well, probably not then.
Another cauldron, right?
South Africa might be down, they might be down too. It might be the best time to play them, you know what I mean? Exactly. But going back to DMAC, I mean, I don't think there's any coincidence that he had played his first game in Woodlands in how many years, just coincidentally when the All Blacks are down at Dunedin. You know, I guarantee he's been floating around the camp. He might not be too far away.
Well, Shannon Frizzell has been, hasn't he?
He's been floating around as well. Like, I think what the All Blacks have learnt over the last couple of weeks, you have to prepare for every eventuality. You do not know what can happen and who can be ruled out at last moments. And then, like you say, a Patrick Tuipulotu was incredibly valuable to the All Blacks and was necessary and needed.
Well, Ireland weren't the only side making history over the weekend. Wales got their first ever win in the Republic over South Africa, and it was a dramatic finish.
Centimetre by centimetre towards the Springbok line. Thomas Williams, Hanscom goes wide over the top for Adams. From the left touchline, Gareth Hanscom has nailed the conversion, and Wales are ahead. Hendrickson, Gelanted, it's lost forward by Vincent Koch, and Wales have their first victory ever in South Africa.
How good. That is amazing to see, isn't it? A clean sweep for the Northern Hemisphere sides over the weekend. First time it's been done in July internationals.
Yeah, unbelievable, to be honest. That's a stat that I didn't realise. And you look at that one there. Actually, I thought Wales probably should have won last week, and it was bigger that probably, you know, was the culprit, and they didn't. And Anscombe steps up, throws that skip ball, and he nails the conversion to win it. I mean, that's just a big match play from Gareth.
Showed plenty of guts there too, because they were under the pump for a long time. South Africa had a lot of territory, a lot of the possession. The Welsh line-out was failing time and time again, so it wasn't pretty, but they got the job done, so they showed a bit of guts.
South Africa made 12 changes from the week before, and they paid the price. They paid the price for not putting their top side, their top line-up together to get the job done. They are now in the same position that the All Blacks are in, is that they have to go and perform at home and prove that they are the world champions. That was the most important kick in Wayne Pivac's coaching career. It just takes a little bit of pressure off him, the fact that they were able to get this job done. But it also confirms to me that the gap between the North and Southern Hemisphere, and we've talked about it, Bossy, for a while, is very, very close. And even globally, if you're not on top of your game and you don't prepare well, you are not going to have success. And I'll show you the results now, the top 6 teams and their results over the last 10 times that they have played. So let's just have a look at it here, all right? France are undefeated. That's why they're the #1 team in the world. That's the sort of form they've put on the board. But let's take in the context that South Africa have lost 5 of their last 10 test matches, including losing to Wales and losing to England, of course, the All Blacks. Ireland have just lost the 2. That's to the All Blacks, the first test here, and to France in the Six Nations. We've lost 4, England have lost 4, and Australia have lost 4. So you talk about the balance of the game right now. Clearly, France are out on top. Ireland are there and showing consistency, but the rest of us, we're scrapping, Bossy. We are scrapping in every test match. Is critical in terms of our confidence, but also the fact of telling us exactly how hard it is to win at the international level. You cannot take anything for granted.
No, you can't. And I think, and you realise that, and this might be controversial to say, but we are, in New Zealand, we're probably a little bit naive of how good the Northern Hemisphere are.
I don't think we are now.
Well, we can't be, because they're coming down here in the end of their season, end of a very, very long season, and they're all beating Southern Hemisphere teams, which are supposed to be coming in to getting ready for our peak.
So are they closing the gap, or have they overtaken the Southern Hemisphere sides?
I don't think the gap's ever really been there like we've perceived it to be. And we got to remember that when that next World Cup, it's in the Northern Hemisphere as well. So we're going into territory which is going to be very, very hostile environment.
I'll disagree with you on one point there. I believe there was a gap. There was a gap in our tight five and their tight five. You go tell me there's a gap now after watching that Irish tight five go to work on the weekend.
Oh, I think the loose forwards as well, though. Our combination
was
of Reid,
outstanding.
Yeah, but I think the gap we had when we had McCaw, Reid, and Kano was they were part of the difference maker for me. The balance we had there. But like you say, the loose forward trio of Ireland. But we've seen it from South Africa as well, the way that developed, and we've seen what France have done. And we are in this scrap right now. I don't think we're in a position where we can say because even got thrown when you're playing the All Blacks, you're the #1 team in the world. No, it's not like that anymore. We've got a legacy. We've got a legacy to protect, Batesy. But bottom line, it's getting more and more difficult by the year for us to continue to dominate, because I don't think that's the way the international game has gone.
Well, when you talk about dominance, the World Rugby rankings, the latest rankings, come out tomorrow officially. But we already know how it looks. The All Blacks sitting in 4th, the first time ever since the rankings came out in 2003. France first, Ireland second, South Africa third. Is that fair? Is that how it looks at the moment?
Can't disagree with that. You can't disagree that France are first.
Yeah.
Any stretch of the imagination, you know. And the Irish beat us on the weekend, so they should be ahead of us. South Africa, should they be in second? They lost on the weekend, so you could debate a little bit, but I don't think there's any doubt that France are #1.
Yeah, and that stat you had up there with all the games in the last few years, 10 games, 100% France are the team to beat at the minute.
Yeah.
100%. And these in the Six Nations, Ireland play them regularly, and it's a one-off match. And there's a big cases, there's a lot more riding on it than series like this.
And what it does do, and I've said this before, it makes an absolute mockery of the fact that France is in our pool for the Rugby World Cup, and that South Africa and Ireland are in another pool and will play and meet each other in the quarterfinals. Makes a mockery of going into a Rugby World Cup when, in theory, you want the 4 best teams on a path to meet at the semi-finals, the 4 best teams in the world. That, to me, they make those decisions far too early when it comes to a Rugby World Cup in those pools. OK, well, time to have some fun, because it is trivia time. Oh, dear.
Your favourite time, Batesy, your favourite time, and Jeff's as well, but I know that you're going to be great. OK, the trivia question for today, for you at home as well. Which teams have beaten the All Blacks in New Zealand in a test match?
Yeah, I've got that. So you've got one. You've got one.
Started jotting them down already.
You've got 3 already. Bang, 3. All right, let's go.
That's a question for you. Which teams have beaten the All Blacks in New Zealand in a test match? We'll have the answers for you right after this. No, mai, hoki mai, welcome back to The Breakdown. It's great to have you joining us, especially for this time of the show. It is trivia time. The question is, which teams have beaten the All Blacks in an official test match in New Zealand? Do you think you've got the answer?
Now listen to the answer. Make sure you're clear on the number.
How many teams?
No, I want them to go first.
How many teams?
I've got 6.
How many?
I've actually got 6 as well.
Jeff?
I've got 7.
Well, Jeff's right. What teams do you have?
You guys got the easy 6, but they didn't get the World 15. The World 15 was the 7th test match. So South Africa, Ireland, Australia, England, France, the British and Irish Lions.
The try under the post.
Well done.
World 15.
Well done.
The big try under the post. Is that right?
Yes.
You saw the answers,
I can't believe I got that.
You did.
Honestly, can't believe I got that. I mean, I can't remember anything. But I tell you what, make sure you remember it at home, because this is your opportunity to go to the captain's run for the All Blacks, and we did it at Dunedin, and this is what the beautiful view that we had. It clearly wasn't a perfect captain's run because we didn't get the perfect performance, but it was a great afternoon out. But bottom line, your opportunity now to get involved. So you know the answer is 7. So now, here is the Ford Captain's Run. We have 2 double passes to give away. Watch the Captain's Run thanks to Ford, the official sponsor of the All Blacks. Pure and simple. All you have to do, you've listened to the answer, email us at thebreakdown@sky.co.nz. There's no flights or accommodation. Bottom line, I'll meet you in Wellington on Friday afternoon and we'll see all the action. There'll be hot chips, there'll be water, there'll be hot chips. I'm hoping it's a beautiful
Saturday,
afternoon.
please?
No, it's fantastic to watch them, see them in action, so I can't wait.
No, it will be awesome, and it's a great competition that Ford is running on the breakdown as well. Well, you talk about perfect performances. The Black Ferns had a trial match in Pukekohe on Friday night. One of the sides almost was a perfect performance. Let's hear from the head coach, Wayne Smith.
Nali's possibles in Tongan and Rawara's possibles in Fiji, so we tried to pick two pretty even teams. Clearly it didn't quite work out like that for various reasons, but I think as selectors we just got to be objective, have a look at individuals on each side, and we've got some hard decisions coming up.
Is there a couple more weeks that can help the players put their hands up? Yeah, well, so we're going to watch, we've got Palmer Cup coming up, so there's a couple of weeks before we name the team for Laurie O'Reilly, and it's still not over there neither. We'll pick a team for Laurie O'Reilly series, but there's a whole lot more FPC games for us to watch and judge people on, so it's never over till it's over.
Oh, it's so great to have him involved in the Black Ferns in what is a massive year for women's rugby in this country. Trial matches sort of seem like a thing of the past, but how important are they?
They've only got 2 test matches, don't they, afterwards to lead into it. So really, really important. And I suppose important for the players to put their hand up, but also probably just as important for the coaches to get a better understanding of what they're dealing with and the talent that's around, because they've only been in the job, what, a couple of months now? Yeah. So vitally important for them to get a feel of the wider depth, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And they've played those 3 games in that quad series, but they haven't played a lot of really highly competitive. They might have played a little bit of club level. There's a big step up when they've got a World Cup coming, so they need these games. Any top-class rugby for them is a bonus.
I think what's happened in the last 12 months is there's been a lot more exposure and a lot more opportunity for players to develop. And I think a lot of the players, maybe in some ways, were in a situation where they were comfortable, that they were a regular in the Black Ferns team. Whereas now with a new coaching team, with a new game plan, and with Opiki, and the fact the Whara Palmer Cup developing, and the fact that Wayne Smith's had them on more camps, and they've played a trial match, they've had the opportunity to develop. And then you introduce the few players who are going to be available out of the Sevens program. Yeah. I think we've changed trajectory as we go towards this Rugby World Cup here in New Zealand. But first and foremost, I think the Laurie O'Reilly, I think they'll make a mark and we'll see some new talent, because we've clearly seen some new talent on the weekend that can seriously play.
Some old talent. I shouldn't call them old, should I?
Yeah.
Reinvigorated.
The wise heads.
Some
reinvigorated, right? Reinvigorated.
Yeah, they've Eloise Blackwell. We just saw her on the clip up there. Yeah. She put her hand up and said, follow me. She'd been left out of the team as well. So, maybe by leaving them out, they've got hungry as well. So, interesting balance.
And the key part of that, I think, is they need a bond. They need to be able to form as a group. This is a new group from other years. So, they need these runners. They need the time together. The more time they can spend together, they're going to be able to form those partnerships a lot better. And I think it's going to be exciting into the year once we finally get there. What, 3 months?
It's not far away, and we've got the Laurie O'Reilly, which is late in August, 20 and 27th of August, and that'll be a chance to see how far they have actually come. But even through the Pac-4, they showed some real development. And this group, I'm really excited about it, because all of a sudden we're seeing fresh faces, people that are stepping up to the mark, and they've put the pressure on Wayne Smith and the selection team to say, you know what, find a place for me.
Can I just ask you something? Wayne Smith's a smart guy, right? He knows what he's doing. This wasn't a probables versus possibles trial. It was a possibles versus possibles, but one side was completely dominant. Was he doing that on purpose?
Well, I think we saw once again the value of a forward pack that can go out and dominate, and that's what the forward pack did. And Ireland did the same job, and if you get that up front, it doesn't matter. If you don't get that up front, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter how many rock stars you've got in the back line, you've got to get it, and they got that dominance up front. So I think it's bitterly disappointing for some other players, but for the team that went out and fronted, they put their hand up.
Well, we look forward to the Laurie O'Reilly Cup later on this year, and of course the Women's World Cup. Make sure you do get on the Black Ferns journey this year with us as well. Well, not too much time to go, but in 2 days' time there is another match. Ireland take on the Maori All Blacks. How does this one play out?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, to be honest, because it's going to be really interesting what team Ireland throw out there. And as Jeff has already alluded to, probably that starting team perhaps goes the whole distance, because the amount of players that they've brought on tour with them. So it'll be an interesting mix to see how they show up in this contest.
The first match, let's be honest...
it's a great game.
Yeah.
Really, really good game. How do you see it playing out for you? I mean, how important is it?
The Maori game?
Yeah.
Look, it's important. There's a lot of guys that need some rugby, and they need to see where they're at in a high-profile environment, and that'll be what this Maori game's for. In terms of this week, if they had the choice again, I think they would prefer not to have a Maori game on Tuesday, especially after a few of the guys probably had a Guinness and a couple of whiskies to celebrate. So they'll knock that out of them. But then Maori for Tuesday, and then I can see it going down to Ireland again on Saturday. Yeah,
it's going to be game on. I think it's important if you're in Wellington and you're not going to the Test match, get down and check out, because both these teams are outstanding. They're international quality. First game in Hamilton was great.
The first match in Hamilton was fantastic. We'll be back down there on Tuesday as well. Here's a bit of info for you, though. If Ireland can wrap up the series next weekend in Wellington, they will be just the third side to win a Test series against the All Blacks, South Africa in 1937, Australia in 1986. Can they do it, Batesy?
Yeah.
Will they do it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they will, but they're definitely a chance. 100% they're a chance. There'll be a response from the All Blacks. Will that response be good enough?
Which way are you?
Oh, I still believe the All Blacks will get up by 6.
That's a silly question.
Enough said. Enough said. That says everything right there.
One score.
The smile, as wide as our desk.
It's within one score. You've got it within one score.
On the same, within one score.
There'll be a response. There'll be a response, and the All Black will come out and they'll need to perform. I'm picking they're going to win, but I'm 100% with you. This is going to go down to the wire.
It's the decider, isn't it? Make sure you check it out on Sky Sport if you're not lucky enough to have tickets to Sky Stadium, and we'll be back here to dissect it all next weekend.
Settle in, because it's time for the action. This is round 2 between the All Blacks and Ireland.
Charging, try scored. Big moment in the game here. Right in centre, Brown try! Oh, he's there! He is there! And a famous Irish victory, their first against the All Blacks in New Zealand, their 4th overall, and fully deserved.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.